Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
How's everybody doing? It's my pleasure to have a couple of esteemed colleagues to another Teaching Tidbits series. And, we've been having this experiment of bringing these conversations to live streaming, and it's been very fruitful, all of the conversations that we've been able to have during these days. And then we're planning to have a few more this week, next week, and the goal is for us to be able to capture, the reflections, the experiences that we're all going through in this transition period. And one of the goals is for us is gaining these insightful tips from the ones that are practicing, the ones that are facing and having conversations with our students. And for today, I'm very happy to have Professor Diana Macri, who is an assistant professor in the Allied Health Department and Dental Hygiene Unit, and also to Professor Nelson Nuñez-Rodriguez, who is a professor in the Natural Sciences Department. So we're going to get a moment to hear from you to tell us a little bit more about yourselves, and then we'll start. We'll have a very nice and entertaining conversation in this afternoon. So let's start with Diana. Tell us a little more about you.
So I am in the Allied Health Department. I am a dental hygienist by trade. I've been trained as a dental hygienist, and dental hygiene unit is one of the units in the Allied Health Department. Prior to coming to Hostos, I taught at a couple of other colleges at City Tech and also NYU. But really, for many years, I was a practicing dental hygienist. And so I've been at Hostos now for 6 years, and consider myself a lucky girl to be here. That's for sure.
Thank you. Nelson, let's hear from you.
Hi, Carlos. Well, as you said, I am from Natural Sciences Department. I am a biology degree and a PhD in chemistry, and I have been at Hostos for 14 years. Before Hostos, I was at QCC, also in CUNY, and before that at Mount Sinai School of Medicine, where I did my postdoctoral degree. So I have been 14 years, I think, at Hostos, also working as a unit coordinator and another function besides teaching chemistry for science and dental hygiene and nursing majors.
So you get a lot of my students before I get them.
Yes.
Good. So, we are all going through many different changes. We're facing, it's a global pandemic. There are so many changes. In our case, in higher education, we have also been doing quick changes, transitioning to distance learning in a matter of days, and then we are still trying to adapt. We're still trying to identify how we're able to have the new norm manageable. So I wanted to start with this question for us in terms of the type of challenges that we've been facing in this transition. Let's start with Diana, and let's see how what type of challenges you have been facing.
You be more specific. I got a lot of challenges. So I think that we can separate them into like personal challenges and into like work-related challenges. So for me, the personal challenges have just been worrying about my parents in Florida. Florida's a little bit crazy with their way, with how they're going about this whole thing. So I'm really worried about my parents. My father has Alzheimer's disease. So I think for a lot of us, when we can't be with our families and kind of, the way that we want to be, it causes a little bit of a tension there. So I personally, that's the first thing I think about in terms of the challenges I have to face. And the challenges that I face really with being an instructor, with being a professor in these circumstances, really center more around if I'm doing a good enough job for the students, in helping them get through it. I know in my mind that they're going to get through it. I know I'm going to get through it. I feel very supported by Hostos faculty and friends and everyone. But I feel sometimes they lose heart, and I think that that's a big challenge. Is just kind of keeping their morale up and helping them understand that they're going to do great. We're going to get through it. I think that's the biggest, to be honest.
Great. Nelson?
So using the same Diana approach, I think that in the personal level, I have relatives in Cuba, Spain, other countries, and the pandemic's different and in different pace and in different countries. So that's constant concerns because we are bombarded by several news has been one of my challenge, and also try to remain grounded with a personal routine every day, so I can be there not only for the students but also for other faculty members. I think that the first challenge that I remember during the transition, the initial retooling period, was to be there not only for the students but also as a unit coordinator for all those faculty members who had the dissimilar experience in the online environment. So I remember, trying to have like a crisis, be in a crisis mood, and to be there every day for the adjunct, collecting information, how I convey a message, avoiding to be sometimes overwhelming because we had a lot of information and we're bombarded by many emails those first days. The main concern for faculty in science was how we move the lab to the online environment. So that was my first challenge and also for the student. For the students, my students were familiarized with Blackboard. So for me, adding there the Blackboard Collaborate tool, that for sure we're going to talk about this later, was not a big point. So the main challenge for me in the professional field was how I could serve the faculty reporting to me, because I knew that there was a dissimilar experience with online tools.
And along those lines, you did something to adapt to these changes, because that was the reality, and now you were faced to address it somehow. And let's hear from you on how these challenges put you in a position that you had to find a way of addressing them.
Yeah. I go first?
Yes.
Okay. The nice thing about getting older is that you have experiences to draw upon. And I'm a very, you guys know me, so I'm a very kind of spirited person, and a lot of energy and moving. And as I gotten older, I really try very hard. It's an effort for me to slow down and just to meditate and to just take a deep breath and to let things unfold as they have to unfold. The situation has to go the way that it has to. I sometimes want to fast forward things. And so keeping a control of myself is a big issue in terms of not panicking. If I panic, somebody else will panic, my kids will panic, my parents will panic, et cetera, et cetera. And so honestly, just meditation helps me out a lot. And I can just, ground myself. And especially on those days, like Nelson said, when, those emails just keep coming and coming and coming. Or sometimes the emails are very emotional emails from students whose aunt has died, or she herself, one of my students 3 days ago herself tested positive, and she was just nervous. What do I do? And so I really think that Nelson really hit it on the head. How can we, keep ourselves intact so that we don't make other people get nervous, because we don't want that chain reaction to start happening along the way. So for me, it has been meditation to help me to just adapt, that I cannot go at the pace that I'm used to going, that is comfortable for me. I have to go at a easier kind of pace, slower pace.
No, thank you, Diane. Yes, for me, as I said in the first dates, I sent an email every day at 8 a.m. to the faculty reporting to me. And I think, Carlos, that I shared some of those emails with you. And the subject of those emails was transition period day 1, transition period day 2. And in each email, I had a moment describing humanizing the process. So I had the feeling that we needed to humanize the process, not only thinking on the student, but also thinking in the faculty members. So one way was, okay, I will send to the faculty members only one email per day, usually early morning, where I collect information from technology, from administration. But the first paragraph was always, let's humanize the process. Let's make a simple step, baby step. So in writing that email, I was also internalizing for me how, we can have empathy and compassion while we are internalizing the new reality. And after that daily email, that was also a therapy moment for me. I try to keep a routine, as I said, do some kind of physical exercises at home now because I cannot go to the gym. And also try to have similar preparation that I have when I go to teach, that there is some kind of ritual or routine that now is no longer there. So I try to create a routine to be prepared to be there for the student. That was useful for me, to be prepared that half an hour period before the class starting moment, to be prepared in the same way that I prepare when I go to class. So I go into that mood to be there for the students. So that was another strategy that worked for me so far.
And we are talking right now about teaching. We started to talk about how our teaching would have to change. So did how do you change your teaching? Is there any other tips that worked for you in addressing, because right now you have a totally different approach. You're not seeing your students like you did before in the classroom. You have to adapt to the technology using Blackboard Collaborate, WebEx, or any other virtual conferencing tool, or identifying how you will be connecting with your students. So what changed in the way that you were teaching? Let's again start with Diane.
So, when I saw the question first pop up here, and as you were talking about it, I said, am I going to be honest, or should I come up with something cuter that won't be so honest? And I'm going to go ahead and be honest with the thing. So I really had to realize that I couldn't ask of my students what I usually ask of them. The dental hygiene program is a very competitive, very tough program. We put our students through a lot when they go through the program because they take these board examinations that they have to pass, and it's a lot of very complicated coursework, a lot of science coursework they have to go through it. And so we have to, or at least the kind of instructor that I am is usually to keep raising the bar. And it's a beautiful experience here at Hostos because you raise the bar and the students can meet you. If you give them that support that they need, they'll meet you. And here I had to just go on relaxation mode. And the example was that I assigned them research papers, and I had to do a first draft review. So usually I'll assign the research papers and I'll send them to the library and I'll make them do what they do those research papers, but they don't go through a first draft review. So I had to go through that first draft, and I had to give them that kind of peace of mind. I told them, send me your paper the first time. I'll read through it. I'll give you any sort of feedback to make it better. You can fix it, and then you can submit that draft to me again. And so to me, that was like a relaxing of my, very strict kind of pedagogical tools, or however you want to refer to it. And it worked well, because if my primary concern is that I really want to be there for the students, then that was a good way for me to be there for the students and to change my teaching style a little bit, to change what I expected of them so that I could have a better end result. And it worked out well. The papers came out really great. It worked out really well.
Perfect. Nelson.
So for me, I was reflecting that, I met the student for several weeks. So more or less, I knew who was who in that class, and I had an idea of the class dynamic. So as Diana mentioned, as part of that transition, I share with all the faculty, we cannot hold ourselves to the same standards because we are not in the face-to-face environment where we are safe there. So for me, I discovered a lot of tools in the Blackboard Collaborate that I didn't know. I knew Blackboard Collaborate, but I didn't know the group work. And I used to do a lot of group work in class. So I started using the group work in Blackboard Collaborate. This is a new tool for me, and it's working. I also realized that many students like when I start summarizing ideas over the chat. So several students prefer to talk over the chat and ask and reply question over the chat that open the microphone. So that was my initial approach was, oh, you have a question, raise your hand and ask a question. But then a student preferred to ask the question over the chat. So my answer is there, so everyone can have that kind of ongoing conversation and they can take that conversation from there. I realized that some students who didn't participate too much in the face-to-face class started to participate in that chat conversation. So I reinforced the use of the chat, the use of the Blackboard Collaborate working in group tools, and coming back to one strategy that Professor Jackie Di Santo shared years ago, I started using the weekly syllabus because, in the middle of too much uncertainty, I read something about setting short expectations. So let's talk about what happened this week, and in 2-3 weeks we will see because we don't know. So somehow I reset the 2 or 3 main goals for the whole semester based on what we did before in face-to-face environment. But from those 3 main goals, I started talking about, okay, for this and next week, let's focus on 1 or 2 ideas. So this weekly syllabus, using Professor Di Santo term, helped me and helped them, to be focused on one concrete idea because, there are too much information around them. So the weekly syllabus was a tool that I started using and for me worked very well.
Well, I'm sure Jackie will be very happy to hear that. And I want to also thank the people that is connected right now, and I asked them to keep sending messages. Manuel Livingston.
Hi everyone, I don't see.
Manny Livingston says hello.
There is a reason why we have faculty from the Allied Health Sciences and the Natural Sciences, because we had some questions for you regarding labs, right? And Manuel is asking, what strategies do you perform in your online lab modules, and how do you assess their progress? Anybody that wants to
That's for you, Nelson, because I don't teach a lab.
So this is Manny, thank you for being here. This is so far the main ongoing challenge. But what impressed to me was that in the first 48 hours of the retooling period, all faculty members from different institutions got together and we started sharing lab strategies. So I was impressed how we came together in just 2 days. So we have right now, so let's say that we are still doing the introduction and some kind of synchronous activities, and what we have some online virtual demonstrations. So we have some virtual demonstration, and from those virtual demonstrations, some professors are introducing, let's say fake data or different data, and based on that data, a student can analyze the potential results of the experiment. So you can use the virtual demonstration as a platform to prompt there different questions, different set of data, so a student can analyze different results. One way to document student academic progress, you can set up in Blackboard, for example, and that exists before this transition, post-lab quizzes. So a post-lab quiz may be a way to document student progress, and in that post-lab quiz, you can have like a case scenario. Another tool that we have been using is the case study from Buffalo University that provides there several case studies that are linked to several lab topics. Actually, some case studies are coming in the format of the lab, And from there, once again, you can imagine a post-lab assessment tool that may be a post-lab quiz. This is more or less where we are now. There is another scenario. I don't know if we have money for that. That student can receive like a kit at home, but it means that if we have 25 students, we must send 25 kit sets to each at homes, and then that day the professor can develop the lab. Meantime, students are developing the lab at home. So those kits are designed for this kind of home-in experience, but we're not there yet because this is more expensive. Right now, with the online demonstrations, we are using that to create new scenarios based on new data. And from there, try to develop some analytical skills. This is where we are right now in chemistry and physics.
And I have to say that I was very pleased to see the collaborations that happened with science faculty. I remember I had a meeting when everything started to happen with every faculty member from the natural sciences department. It was like, when was that going to be possible in the previous norm, in the previous reality? So we were able to have that meeting with everybody, and the amount of information that was shared was hugely useful for everybody. And faculty were sharing their support. They were happy to share, and we've been able to capture a number of these resources in our Center for Teaching and Learning website. So if anybody wants to visit the site and look for the resources tab, you will find all of these links for science or any other resources that faculty have been using. Now, to move on in our conversation, because we're talking about how we change the way that we teach, but there is something that is very important for our students. How do we keep our students engaged in these times? Diana?
So, I was watching a session before and of these teaching tidbits that you had recorded, and the conversation was going somewhere along the line of how important it is for us to keep that connection. Like Nelson had just mentioned, that humanist quality, like I'm still a person, I'm still here, I still care about you, I'm still, gonna, be there through the end with you, that kind of stuff. So I think that word, so when you say engagement to me, like that's what engagement means to me. Because I don't necessarily feel, some students are introverted. Some students don't really want you all up in their face all the time. But all students, of course, want to feel like their faculty is, with them and supporting them and helping them along the way. So I will tell you, I was taking notes, and Nelson had mentioned the use of the chat. So that little chat feature in Blackboard Collaborate has proven to be like a nifty little tool, because I think sometimes students are afraid to raise their hand or afraid to ask their question in the classroom setting. And that little tool has made it so that students can just send me the question or just make a statement to me via that chat. And so I, a couple of times when I use the Blackboard Collaborate, have said to myself, what a nice little thing that even, when this is over, this is something that I really would appreciate to use. And I think that, as faculty, sometimes we don't ask these questions of students because how could we perceive of that, like what will help you talk more in class, or what would help you become more engaged in class? Like that's not a question I even ever thought to ask my students. And so little things like that are popping up as we go through that process, and I think that that's what keeps students engaged. The other thing that I tell you that I think that my students appreciate a lot, and I think all faculty can do, and it's super easy, I think, is just to respond to their emails as soon as you can, as soon as you get them. And that's like something, just we think of, of course we're bombarded, but if you have 20 emails and 2 of them are from students, just answer those emails first, because it means a lot to them to get whatever answer that they need, whatever it is that they need. If they know that you're there, like they perceive it as, okay, my faculty is here, I'm first, I'm the first thing that they're thinking about, and it goes a long way.
Yes, I agree with Diana. Indeed, I have a student that he's a frontliner, and he has been asking me to, reschedule the exam several times. And all the time I say, okay, whenever you are ready, the exam will be there for you. Because once again, I discovered that in the Blackboard, you can set up an individual time for an individual student. I didn't know that. But talking about engagement, for me was so impressive that the first day that when we came back, and my class was on Thursday, we came back on Thursday, the full class was there waiting for me. And you know that the Blackboard collaborate, you can enter 15 minutes before. When I got into the Blackboard, the full class was there, like waiting for me. And that was like a moment for me, because they were there, and somehow they needed that togetherness or rebuild that community. And for me, once again, the group work tool from the Blackboard has been a way to engage them, because when they go to the group work, I didn't go there, so I give them that moment to reconnect among themselves, because if not, they connect the whole class in silent, let's say, with me. So giving them that breathing room in the Blackboard collaborative group it's another moment for them to talk among them. Of course, when they go to the group, they have a task to accomplish. But even if I tell them you have 3 minutes, of course I give them more time, so they have time to talk among them. And then when they come back to the main room, they as a group have to come back with an answer. So the group work in the chat, I mean in the collaborate room, has been a tool to keep them engaged. I also reply emails, on a regular basis. And regarding Blackboard, I agree with them that I will be posting on a regular basis announcement in the Blackboard, so they are familiarized with that engagement vehicle. So the Blackboard announcement has been helpful for me, because they were familiarized with that message vehicle before the transition. So I try to keep the same kind of engagement. So regarding engagement, I was all the time concerned how I reproduced. It was kind of an instinct what I was doing in the face-to-face. That's why the group work has been working for me. And actually, I usually in the class post a question, and they have to answer those questions. So using the chat and using the group work has been a way to keep that mechanism, because they were expecting those questions. So those have been my tools to keep them engaged during class time.
And along those lines, we have to make sure that we are mindful of everything that's going on in everywhere. How do we keep? And you mentioned some of those tips already, but anything else that you would like to add in how we keep realistic expectations so that our students are able to accomplish them?
I love all these questions, and I haven't even really given thought. I think that what happens is like as you go along, you kind of get into a flow, and your students, my students are now at this point getting very comfortable, and they're asking for like changes. Like I was going to create an exam, and my students the dental hygiene students have to take a dental hygiene boards. So it's really important that they know this material so that they don't have to study again before they take these boards. So now they're taking these Blackboard exams, and they have obviously their textbooks and everything. And I tell them that, they have their textbooks. So I've been trying to keep a balance between what I, in my heart, know that they have to know this material, and then on the other side, understand that there's no way that I can control that. How much they'll memorize or how much they'll, learn and all this kind of stuff. Assessment has pretty much gone out the window a little bit, is what I'm saying.
Okay. So first, I have been recording the Blackboard collaborate sessions. Yeah. So I understand that some students can no longer make the class time. So that's a breathing room for them. If you cannot be at that time, the class session will be recorded for you. And second, I usually have some lesson plans for the class. Another tool that I expanded the lesson plans with more details. So that helps to those students who cannot make the class session. So they have the recorded session, but also an extended lesson plans. And regarding exams, when we moved to the online environment, we were almost ready for the second exam. So I said, I will keep the same format that we had in the first exam. So there is no change regarding type of questions. It was, let's say, 27 multiple choice questions and 3 written questions. The only change will be that will be on Blackboard. They were familiarized with online quizzes, so it was nothing new for them. Moving forward, I mentioned to them, now, in order to say, I use the term to preserve the academic integrity of the exam, let's say in this way, I will have more critical thinking, analytical questions, and less knowledge questions. In the first exam, there was a mix of knowledge, understanding, and analytical, critical thinking questions. And moving forward, because of the new nature of the exam, more critical thinking questions will be in the exam. So they are expecting that kind of question, but they are prepared for this type of question. This is how I try to adjust my teaching to the new reality regarding assessment and regarding class time.
I mean, those are great tips, and I wanted to say hi to Sage Joy Sevilla, who is sharing a comment, maintaining the scope of the sequence and syllabus and work plan while learning and operationalizing new tools for the online class and creating new assessments.
Kudos.
I think one of the things that is very important for all of us to acknowledge at one from one end, and also sharing with our students that we're all going through this process, we are all learning, and then those expectations could be flexible, making sure that then the communication piece is there so that you're able to have that conversation with the students, and as Diana mentioned, making sure that you share that and let them know that you're there for to support them.
Yeah.
We've spoken about the class time, the challenges. One of the things that is important, and I wanted to close with this question, is about you, all right, and your life routine. So a lot changed. There was a lot of things that we had to adapt. We were not prepared to work from home. For those of us that have kids, they are also home, and they're also taking classes, and then you have to find a way of how to organize your life. So how has your life changed?
Oh gosh, it's changed that, just the same ways that you guys has changed. And like I said, I have really learned to just chill out and go with the flow, and it is what it is. I tell you that I'm getting a little cranky because I have 3 boys, and now they want breakfast, lunch, and dinner pretty much all the time. So that's changed in a way, and I'm really a little bit tired of cooking these meals all the time. That's a little frustrating. And I have wondered, I mean, I'm enjoying sleeping in, so I have wondered how I'm going to go back to waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting to school in time. But you know what? Like the challenges that it presents on the back end, you have a lot of perks and a lot of like the one thing that I really wanted to say, because like it just came to my mind about one of the questions that you asked, is really just in terms of resources and the support that we have, that especially your department, Carlos, the ed tech department. I mean, I will come up with an idea or something, and then today I was talking to Eber about what to do with my exam. I can't tell faculty enough to use the Panopto feature. That has been spectacular for my students. They love it. They value it very much. And so going to this modality has forced me to really expand my pedagogy. It's really making me a better teacher, and I enjoy that. I really do. So even though my routine has changed, and all these crazy things are happening, I have to put up with them being up until 2 o'clock in the morning. They're up yelling at their computers, playing video games and stuff. But then it opens up all these other doorways, all these other things that are happening that are kind of really cool things. So it's the yin and the yang, I guess, right?
Yes, Nelson.
Many faculty, as Diana mentioned, now are so excited about all the videos and material they have been creating. And I said, look, why you don't explore in the future hybrid or online courses? I hope the administration knows how to capitalize all these forced learning moments without forcing faculty. Oh, now you have to teach a hybrid. But I see many faculty and myself included, opening to new pedagogies opportunities. But regarding my life routine, well, I like to travel, and I was looking forward to go to Mexico during the spring break. So after metabolizing that this is not going to happen, or even during the summer I have to be here, when I had a lot of plans for the summer. So well, I try to keep my routine. I am an early morning person, so I try to wake up early morning, even though I could sleep more. So I try to do exercises as I used to do in the gym now here at home. But in general, yes. Well, I think that the main change for me has to be stay at home. That I am not a homebody person. That's a main change for me. And I miss campus. I was talking with another professor last week, Professor Cynthia Jones, that I like going to campus, and that social life that somehow we developed there has been another major change for me. But I think that once again, I try to keep the routine as before. An early morning person. I try to remain as an early morning person, and that's a recommendation. Well, I'm reading more fiction books
Oh,
than
yes.
before. That is an opportunity now during this period. But I try to keep, let's say, the routine that is more the better routine for my body. Some people are not morning person. Some people are morning person. So I am a morning person. So I take advantage of that. So I try to accomplish, as usually, the majority of my duties in the morning. So by noon, I try to be pretty done with my duties. So more or less, that is the main change. And once again, looking into the summer and realizing that perhaps I cannot travel as I was expecting. But it's a minor challenge comparison with all going on around us. So.
Agreed.
And one thing that you can try, not the same, but being that we are in this virtual modality, can do a virtual tour Mexico. You can just get one virtual reality goggles and visit. And I think it is, as you mentioned, we've been doing a lot of organizational change in edtech, and for us, it's been the more complex element is for you to take the next step, and crossing the line for taking risks, and feeling comfortable on doing that. And faculty had to take that step in these circumstances. And I've heard a lot of comments from faculty that I have conversations with, in, oh, I didn't know that this was possible. And students are responding very well. I thought there were going to be many more challenges, and now can I teach the class in the online modality in the fall? And it's like, well, this good conversations that we're finally having. So we will see, and I think we are learning a lot of good things from everything that we are trying. Creativity, being flexible, being vulnerable, sensitivity, all of those keywords that I keep reminding myself, reminding the people that I have conversations with, are important for us to reinvent and become stronger for the new reality. I'm going to be sharing a couple of tips, because this is the idea. You see, Manny share a couple of
Mhm.
problem-based learning, answer-based synthesizing learned material. Jay Sage is saying, thank you
Thank
for
you,
the
Joy.
station.
Thank you, Joy.
And this is the idea, for us to be able to share a few minutes, having conversations, to share a few tips on how we are facing, and how the people that are connected, the people that are going to be watching this video in the future, would be able to continue the conversation, and hopefully these tips were helpful for everybody.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, we're going to be having more of these episodes this week, next week. Tomorrow, I have an interview with our provost.
Oh.
Nice.
So I
Yes.
invite everybody to join us in this conversation with the provost. Imagine the amount of changes that we are facing, and then she being in that position to be leading and making tough decisions. So I invite everybody to join us tomorrow, and until then, I want to thank Diana and Nelson for joining me in this episode, and we'll see each other either in the virtual or physical environment in the near future.
Yes, thank you. It wasn't as scary as I thought.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for.
Thank you.
Bye.